Today, I'm an avid reader. I love books. I am surrounded by books here in my office. But that wasn't always the case. I used to be a pretty bad reader. That all changed my junior year of college when I started taking my Christian faith more seriously. I realized I need to know what I believe and why I believe it. So I set out to become a reader, and I learned a lot of different strategies and tips along the way. In this video, I'm going to share the top 8 tips that I've learned for reading more books. Now, if you like this video, all you need to do is give it a like and drop me a comment. Let me know which tip you think is best, which one will help you most. Before we jump in on the 8 tips for reading more books, I want to address 2 obstacles. I hear these all the time. The first obstacle is, well, I'm just not a good reader. To that, I just say, duh. If you don't exercise, you're not going to be good at exercising. If you don't do jujitsu, you're going to be bad when you start jujitsu. You are going to be a fool when you start anything. Reading is like a muscle. You need to exercise it. So just acknowledge that and address it right away. I'm not very good at reading. Duh. That's okay. That's why you're here on this video, learning 8 tips to read more books. The second obstacle that gets in the way of reading more books is just time management. You might say, look, I just don't have enough time to read all these books. Now, I hope these 8 tips are going to help you optimize the time that you do have, and then hopefully help you make more time where you do have it. So with that said, let's jump into tip number 1. And this is super simple. Know why you're reading. Why do you want to read? Do you want to become an expert in a certain genre? Do you want to learn something new? Do you want to just accomplish a reading goal? Do you want to become someone who is able to read 52 books a year, 104 books a year, whatever the case? Why are you reading? Why do you want to read? Why did you click on a YouTube video about 8 tips for becoming a better reader or reading more books? Why'd you do that? Well, you tell me. Let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you guys, but let yourself know. Why do you want to read more books? Come up with your why, and that will help guide your journey into becoming a better reader. Tip number 2 is come up with a reading goal. This is true in every other aspect of our lives. If we're going to go start an exercise program, we come up with goals to keep us on track. Why do we not do this when it comes to reading? I don't know. So do it. I found that there's at least 3 different ways that you can make your book reading goals. The first way is to find all the books that you want to read in a given time period. Let's just say a year. Let's say you want to read 52 books in a year. That's 1 book a week. Maybe you come up with 52 books that you want to read. You look up the page numbers for each one of those books, and then you do the math and you say, well, the first week of January, I'm going to read this book and there's 350 pages. That means I need to read X amount of pages per day in January. Now, I don't like this method as much, but some of you guys might. If you're like super type A personality, you're on top of life, you might like this. You might really need to be regimented. And you don't even have to do an everyday goal. Maybe you leave off Saturday and Sunday, or maybe you leave off Fridays because that's your busy work day, whatever. You can do this. I don't like this one. It takes a lot of research. It takes knowing the exact number of pages in each book you want to read. It means knowing all the books that you're going to read in that given time period in that year. That's a lot of work. Some of you might really enjoy that, so go for it. The second way to identify your goal, to come up with your goal, is to go with just a broad category. So instead of looking up the exact books that you want to read, you say, hey, look, maybe I want to read 52 books this year, and I'll just average out. The average book is like, let's say 350 pages. So you add those all up and then you divide them down by 365 and you figure out I need to read about this many pages per day in order to read 52 books that average 350 pages a year. So I just did the math for you guys here. If you want to read 52 books a year, which average about 350 pages, that's going to be 18,200 pages per year. Okay, so then you divide that by 365 and you come up with your daily page number goal, which comes out to 49.86, so 50 pages a day. If you can read 50 pages a day, then you'll read 52 books, which on average are 350 pages. Now, I like this average way more because you may end up getting more than 52 books. So if that's your goal, you're going to surpass that because I don't know how many books are 350, but if you're going on the top end, then you're giving yourself some wiggle room, and maybe you miss Sunday or maybe you miss Saturday, but you're still in there. Now, this might be super duper ambitious for you. Maybe just go with 10 books. Maybe go with 5 books. I don't know your skill level. I don't know how good of a reader you are right now, but you fill in the blank for this. So the second way is to go general and say, I want to read X amount of books in this time period, and then just do some math and say, I think the books that I'm going to read are probably around 250 pages, 350 pages, and then divide by the number of days you're going to be reading. So if that's a year, it's 365. So that's a top-down strategy where you're starting with the number of books you want to read and then figuring out how many pages do I need to read a day. There's also a bottom-up way. This is the third way to make your book reading goal. And this would be to come up with a reasonable amount of pages that you think you can read in any given day, and then adding that up in the time period for which your goal is set. So maybe that's a year. So let's say that you think you can probably read like 15 pages a day. That doesn't seem too insane. If you can read 15 pages every single day in a year, you will have read 5,475 pages in that year. Let's divide that number by 350, because we're saying 350 is the average book. It has 350 pages, and that comes out to 15.6 books in a given year. You would have read 15.6, a little bit over 15 books in a year if you would just read 15 pages a day. And these are books that are 350 pages long. So if you think you're going to read books that are less than that, you're going to get more books than 15 per year just by reading 15 pages a day. Now, if you're going to read 25 pages per day for a whole year, that comes out to 9,125 pages. Divide that by 350, you get 26 books a year. If you read just 25 pages a day, you can read 26 books that average 350 pages per book. So make a goal, whether it's figuring out every single book you want to read in a given year or a month or whatever, and then going from top down to figure out how many pages you need to read to accomplish this book in this time period. That's the hardest one. That's the nerdiest one, right? You can do another top down of saying, I want to average out like 52 books that are about 350 pages, and then doing the math back down to figure out your daily page number goal. Or by just starting with a reasonable amount, saying, I think I could probably read 15 pages per day, and then building that up to see how many books you're going to average per year. And if you think, hey, that's not enough for me, then you just up your daily goal. If 15 pages per day doesn't give you enough books, averaging at 350, you can average at 250, whatever you want. But if 15 doesn't give you enough, then go up to 17, go up to 18, go up to 25, go up to 35 or 45. If you can read more per day, you think you can actually hit that goal, you're going to end up with more books. Just be consistent. Give yourself a daily page reading goal. So you have a daily page number goal. That's awesome. Now you need to log it. So that's tip number 3. Keep a reading log for how you're doing. This is my first reading log. It goes back to 2015. It goes back to November 30th, 2015. And I got 79 pages that day. That's pretty awesome. I love that. So this goes all the way back. And I write down the book that I was reading, and I write down the number of pages that I was able to accomplish. And then at the end of each month, I highlight the number of pages that I got. So December 2017, I got 1384. That's the number of pages. And I can't remember if I was on track or not. I think I was. I think I crushed it that year. That was awesome. That was a good year. I still do this. So here's another year of completed pages. This helps me stay on track. If I don't have this, I'm not going to hit my daily goal. And if I don't hit my daily goal, I'm not going to hit my yearly goal. So this is my first one. I started using this one after. And then here, surprise, surprise, I have a saddleback cover on my current reading log. And I am behind schedule this year, but I had some crazy stuff going on. And I'm still trying to learn how to adjust this for philosophy, because sometimes I have to read a page 4, 5, 6 times over, especially if I'm writing a précis on an article. So that's the worst. And it kind of hampers my goals, but I've had to learn to adjust. You'll have to learn to adjust your goals as well. So you came up with a goal, and now you have a reading log in order to track your goal and see how you're doing. Tip number 4 is set a timer and plan ahead in order to help yourself read. We have all sorts of stuff pulling at our attention today. You have very limited amount of time where you can sit down and read. So you have to protect that time. Set a timer. If you have 15 minutes to read, if you have 20, if you have an hour and a half to read, set a timer for an hour and a half. Turn off your phone. If it's on your phone, silent everything else and flip it over so you don't see the notifications. Close your door. I don't care if the flood comes or the fire's on its way or the tornado's coming. You have an hour and a half to read. You're going to read. You're going to work towards your daily goal. Plan ahead, look at your day, and figure out, when do I have time to accomplish my daily reading goal? And then go and do it. Set a timer for uninterrupted reading time. Tip number 5 is bring a book with you everywhere you go. This is one of my favorite tips. I have books with me at weddings. I have books with me in the coffee shop. Everywhere I go, I have a bag full of books with me, or I just sneak one under my coat or something, because I never know when I'm going to have an extra couple minutes to accomplish my reading goals. If I'm sitting in the coffee shop waiting for my friend to meet me and he's 15 minutes late, I would be upset. You're wasting my time. But if I have a book with me, that's 15 more minutes of reading. That's 15 more minutes of accomplishing my daily page number goal. You didn't waste my time. You gave me more reading time. Thank you. I'm glad you showed up 15 minutes late. This is great. Now I don't have to be mad at my friend, and I'm working on my daily page number goal. So bring a book with you wherever you go. Tip number 5, I'm calling pull the thread. That is, if you don't know which books to read, then grab the book that you already like and read the authors that your favorite authors read. This works really well in academia because there's such things as footnotes. So when you're reading an author you really like or a thinker that you really like, who do they really like? Who do they cite often? Okay, look at the footnotes and go buy that book and read that book as well. If you like fiction, then listen to a podcast where your favorite author's been on talking about who has influenced them, and go read that author as well. Pull the thread. It's like pulling on, the thread of your sweater until it's all unraveled. Unravel that thread, keep pulling on it, and collect more and more books. Now, with this huge collection of books, you're going to need to read multiple books at once. That's tip number 7. Sometimes people get bored and they don't want to finish a certain book. It's a slog. It's a long book, and I'm slogging my way through it. It's a chore now. I don't want to read this book. I'm tired of it. That's fine. Just switch. Just jump onto another book and read that one. If you need a different change of pace, choose a different genre to read and jump into that one. If you're reading a philosophy book, jump into a theology book. If you're studying a ton of theology, then look into like biblical studies and look into the Greek and the Hebrew. Read a commentary, right? Choose different genres to read at once. And I'm telling you, you won't get confused. Your brain's pretty good at compartmentalizing. You will be able to jump in and out and remember the stories. I love it. I love this method. If you can't do this, that's okay. But it's just another tip. Some of you can. I think a lot of us can. And I think a lot more of us can than we think we can. So give it a shot. If you have a hard time finishing books because it feels like a slog, it feels like you're never able to actually continue all the way through, jump into another one and slowly march through multiple books at once. And this brings us finally to tip number 8. Stack your completed books in order to help you see your progress. This is like the completion bar, but for books in a physical, tangible way. I stack mine on my desk in order to see where I'm at, and also in order to help me think and remember what's going on in those books. I can just look at them and remember, oh, I took notes in there. I remember what that book's. Oh, that was cool. That was a cool book. Oh, remember that storyline? That's cool. So instead of stuffing them back onto the shelf where they're going to be competing for my attention, I like to stack the books that I've completed for that year up on a pile on my desk, and then I get to see the completion bar. Now, at the end of the year, I will take a picture of my completed pile in order to remind myself, hey, these are the books that you read this year. It's helpful for me, and I know at the end of the year, I have a completion pile picture that's due, and now it's become a tradition where people are expecting it. It's just further motivation for me to keep on track with my goals. If you fail at your goals, that's okay. It's your goal. You made it up. You can adjust it. You can change it. You can say, hey, that was really hard, or maybe I stuck to it that year, and I'm grateful. I read 52 books. That's awesome. I'm not going to do it next year. Maybe I'll go down to 30 books. Maybe I'll go up to 74 books. So I just want to encourage you guys. 1, know why you're reading. 2, make a goal. 3, keep a reading log. 4, set a timer and plan ahead to help yourself read more. 5, bring a book everywhere with you. 6, pull the thread in order to find new books for you to read. 7, read multiple books at once. And 8, keep track of your goals by taking pictures and stacking up the books that you've completed in a giant pile on your desk. Now, this has been a video about reading more books, but maybe you read a lot of journal articles. Maybe you read a lot of Kindle books that you don't stack. That's fine. Mix and match. You don't have to use all of these tips at once. You don't have to use all of these at all. Grab your favorite tip, and I hope that it helps you read more. Now, if you learned something, that's awesome. I'm so glad. Please leave me a like and drop a comment. Which one of those tips do you think is best? Which one's going to help you the most? And I don't know, maybe which one's going to help you the least? Which one are you definitely not going to do? If you appreciate this content, you can leave me a super thanks here on YouTube. And please share this video with one of your friends who wants to read more books.